My name is Kyla from Speckles and Wool, and today I'm excited to be sharing with you everything I crocheted in 2024. Before we get started today, I want to preface a couple things. One, I'm not great with remembering details, so you might see a little notebook flitting in and out, simply to remind myself of the items I've made. Two, I like to put pictures or videos off to the side so that way you can see how things fit, how they actually look. Some will be photos, some will be videos, depending on what I had for that project. Any other pertinent details like patterns, I will link in the description. If I happen to remember the type of yarn that was used, I will also link that in the description below. So let's go ahead and let's get started. So in January, I started off by crocheting 2 collars from a free pattern that I found online. Now, these were kind of a fail. I liked how they looked if you were taking pictures, but the everyday practical wearing of them was rather unfortunate simply because I crocheted too many chains in the beginning. I think I followed the tutorial suggestions, but I believe it was made to measure. So I might go back and try and remake this because as it is, it's just too big. You move and it flops around. Great for photos, but not great for every day. So I've included a video off to the side to kind of show how that looks. I made 2. I already unwound one to use the yarn for something else, and I will definitely be unwinding the other one so I can move that yarn into a project that I will actually be wearing. After I kind of failed at the collars, I really wanted some collars. I did. I'm obsessed with them. I need to find the perfect collar this year. So I decided to freehand a little pattern, and I made 2 of them. I made one in a smaller gauge and one in a bigger gauge yarn, and they are super versatile. I love them. I think it's a really excellent way to spice up a plain t-shirt, of which I obviously have several. I'm a big fan of plain t-shirts simply because they're just so easy to pair your crocheted stuff with, and they're also comfortable on the weekend. I can't lie to you. So that basically summed up my January. Then in February, I made a set of mohair sleeves, like a shrug, if you will. I made that for my friend's bachelorette party. We were going to be out on the town, but where I live in February, it's still very cold. So it needed to be versatile to wear indoors and also outdoors as we're traveling from location to location. And I think they turned out so well. It, again, was a free-handed project that I just measured out like a rectangle, made enough chains to create a like neck hole, and then basically picked up stitches to create the arms. In the video, you can see that the slit underneath kind of my armpit goes out really deep, and that's something I'm looking at fixing this year. I do have leftover yarn, so I can definitely sew that up so it's not so gappy, but it worked super well for what it needed to work for, honestly. That was it for February. When we moved into March, I decided to try my hand at knitting. I've been sporadic with knitting, but I wanted to try DPNs, double pointed needles, and I decided to make some fingerless gloves. These actually turned out super well. I can't find them right now. They're probably in my car somewhere, so I've included a picture of me making them, the start of the process. I love them. They're easy, they're basic. I did better than I thought I would, but it was really stressful knitting with double pointed needles. If you've not done it before, everybody should try it, but it was a lot for me. The next project I did was another big one. It was basically like a hexagon cardigan. I think they call them hexicardis. And I essentially had about 5 skeins of this hand-dyed wool that was just so beautiful. And I knew I had to put it into a cardigan, but I knew I didn't have enough for like a long sleeve cardigan. So I used the premise of that pattern to start in the armpit and kind of work my way out until it was boxy enough and had the sleeve length. And then I just added, where necessary, rows of granny stitch in order to make it fit my dimensions, and then added, I think it's called a picot stitch border. Somebody tell me, help. But I added that around the edges to really cinch it up and make it look a little finished and final, and I love the way it came out. Honestly, I would totally recommend buying from this dyer. It's unfortunate because I don't think she's dying anymore. She, I believe, stepped away from her business, but I love this colorway. I'm not a big pastel person, and this leans a little more pastel than I'm normally used to, but there's something about it that's just so pretty, and the yarn is so soft. It's unbelievable. And that was my big project in March. In April, I only made two things, and the two things were the exact same two things. They were just knitted ear warmers. Um, it was kind of a struggle for me, as knitting tends to be, but they were pretty basic. I have one that I like to wear when I'm walking my dog. I like the greens and the browns because it reminded me of the forest. Did not realize that when I knitted it up, it would look very camo, which I don't love, but it's fine for walking the dog. The other one I made, I bound off too tightly, I think, and I think it could have been about an inch wider. So I'm going to be undoing that one and maybe redoing it or using the yarn in some other type of project. Then in June, I should I even include this one? I crocheted this tank top the year previous, but I didn't fully weave in the ends and block it until this year. So I'm going to count it. I'm going to count it. And it is a free-handed granny stitch tank top. I saw a picture on Facebook of all places and loved it. So I decided to just freehand my own, and it came out so well. My picture that I have off to the side, it's me wearing the tank top with a long sleeve, and I typically don't. I typically wear this in the summer with like a tank top underneath and then like a neon pink kind of linen button down, but I had the shirt on, so I just decided I was going to style it that way, and I'm actually loving it, and I might wear it like that in the future. Would totally recommend these granny stitch projects. They're just so fun. They're easy to do at night, like when you're watching a movie or a TV show, but the results are truly stunning, especially if you use like a variegated or a color changing yarn. It's super fun. I love it. Then we skip all the way to August. So I finished that tank top in June. In August, I finished this yellow sunny side up sweater. This sweater was so fun to make. This year, I want to make another one, but I want to make it in a fiber that I'm more familiar with. I used for the first time linen, and linen, I can't tell if I like it or not. It's a little dry. It feels like dry, you know what I mean? On your fingers. It's a little, I don't want to say scratchy, but it almost feels scratchy. I have yet to block it out because I have no idea how it's going to react, and I'm a little scared to block it. But I enjoyed working with the color. The color is super nice. And I think ultimately this is a really fabulous sweater for like summer or fall, because you could wear a tank top underneath it, a t-shirt, a long sleeve. It's just really adaptable for the weather if you live in a climate that has four seasons like I do. So I loved it. I will be making another one probably in wool, since I love wool and I'm more familiar with how those fibers block out, but I did really enjoy this. One thing that I'll change next time is the sleeves. The sleeves are really big, and I'm a big fan of big sleeves. However, they're not the most convenient for the day-to-day wear. They can get a little tricky to wear. So just something to think about if you decide to make this pattern. I totally recommend it. I think it's a lovely pattern. It looks way harder than it actually is, but it's varied enough where you're not bored, which I love. It was fabulous. Then in October, I made this orange vest. This is the Acacia vest. I found the pattern on Etsy, I think, and I decided to use some of my hand-dyed wool and make a vest, and I love it. I think it's fabulous. I think it's super versatile. I can wear it over tank tops, t-shirts, long sleeves, and it's just super lovely to wear. It was really fun to make. I'd never used a technique like this before, and I followed the pattern, and the proper side is outward. Now with the next one I made a second one in November out of a cotton, and I decided to have the wrong side facing out because the way that the color changed in this yarn, I did not like the right side out. So I decided to kind of flip it and sew it differently, so that way the wrong side was out. You can see in this cotton version that it didn't block out the same way. So whereas the wool one was much longer, probably by a good 2 inches, the purple one is shorter. It's fine. In the coming year, I would love to make another Acacia vest. I think it's just super fun. I love how they can change their appearance so much. Like, it's just a pattern that you want to go to again and again. I will be linking that down below. Now, December was kind of a mixed bag. I first made three crochet headbands that I will be gifting to friends. I am guilty of not actually sending them out yet, so they will be receiving New Year's gifts. So that's kind of silly. But I made three of those headbands, and then I made a couple items for charity. My mom is a big charity knitter and crocheter. She's not a selfish knitter and crocheter like I am, and so I decided to whip up a couple things to put in the box that she was donating to charity. And then after that, I made the 4 scarves and the granny square vest that I featured in my last video. So I won't talk too much about those because I have a whole video around those items, but I will say I really enjoyed it. I typically go for like longer duration projects, so having 4 items plus a vest that I whipped out within a month was super exhilarating, super exciting. I need to remember this year to mix in more quick projects just for the feeling of doing something, right? Like of getting there, getting it done, because I just spend so long on bigger projects, which is not a bad thing. It's just I really like the process of the bigger projects. I like seeing it all come together. I think it's super fun. Beyond those items, I had several washcloths. I have no pictures of them. I've been using them all year, so it's a little gross. But I have several washcloths that I crocheted over the course of the year. Just when I need one, I just use some cotton and whip one up, and they've been awesome. I would totally recommend making your own washcloths. They are great. Okay, so that is everything I made over the course of 2024. It is not a lot, I will be honest with you. I was really proud seeing the pile of stuff that I made, but at the same time, I was a little like, I wish I could have made more. I will say I did start and complete a master's program this year. So from the beginning of April to basically the end of August, I was nonstop working on my master's program in curriculum and instruction, just to whip that out over the summer. So that means I didn't have a ton of crocheting time over the summer when I typically would. So I know that definitely impacted the amount of things I created. Okay, but let's get real. Here are some goals for 2025 concerning crocheting and fiber arts in general. I really want to use up a good amount of my stash. I have a lot of yarn. I have not bought all of this yarn. This has been gifted to me. My mom has passed on some stuff. As she's gotten older, she's become more and more itchy with wool. So I have received a lot of it. I want to really prioritize working through this stash yarn before I even consider buying new. There's some projects coming up that I will need to buy some new yarn for, but because of the way that they're going to work in my wardrobe, I think I can justify that. But for the most part, I really want to use up the stash. There's a lot. There's a lot, and I'm drowning in it. And this summer, I'll be moving out of my parents' house. So I want to move as little as possible. And of course, it makes no sense. Like, you'll still be moving things, whether it's yarn or a sweater. But for some reason, I can justify moving a sweater. I don't know. I don't know why. This year, I also want to pay for patterns and use them multiple times. As much as I love freehanding, there are a lot of patterns that I have saved that I want to work on this year, and I need to just buy them and work on them, and preferably use them a couple times, because I feel like that's when I hit my rhythm and I know exactly how I want the pattern to function. And so this year, I just want to really prioritize buying more patterns and using them multiple times so I get the swing of it, and then I can recommend the patterns or not. With some of these projects that are upcoming, I need to find a frugal wool. I am very guilty of buying hand-dyed yarns, which I think is fabulous. I love supporting these businesses, but at the same time, it cannot be the majority of things I make just simply because of the price point. So I think I need to find a frugal wool that I can use for these bigger projects. Crochet sucks up a lot of yarn, way more than knitting. So I want to make sure that I am finding a yarn that can be used for all these projects. Something that's obvious is I want to learn new techniques. I've been really looking at mosaic and Tunisian crochet. And I would say one of my biggest goals, honestly, and I'm nervous to put this out there because what if I don't do it? But I think my biggest goal is I want to be a part of like a test crochet. I don't even know if they'd accept me, but like I would like to try. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed seeing all of the things I made in 2024. I'm very excited to see what I make in 2025, considering I will have more time. I have a greater idea of what I want to be prioritizing this year, and I'm really excited to continue this journey and for some of you to hopefully join me. And I'm excited to be a part of this community and, I'm excited about a lot, to be honest with you. So let's stop that before it gets too far. Okay. Anyways, I hope you guys had a happy New Year's and best of luck in your 2025 journeys. Make sure to like and subscribe. Bye.